All right, so let's get started. Welcome to episode 30 of Toolbox Tuesday. We are going to be focused on our commissions management application today. And without further ado, we will just jump right into the agenda. So if you've been here before, you know that we'll go over the gaps very quickly and what solutions we've created around commissions management and how it can help you. We're going to then jump right into Business Central and do a live demo. After that, we'll go over the next steps that you can take in order to be successful with our commissions management app, as well as some resources you can utilize to do either some more self-learning or schedule some additional time with our team. And then, like I mentioned, we've got our Q&A, but would highly recommend that you just throw this in the chat as we go. For now, Preston's going to be monitoring that, and he'll answer any questions that you've got, and then I'll monitor it while he goes through the commissions matrix and some other things directly inside of Business Central. So with that, what are the gaps that exist today? If you've looked at commissions in Business Central, you'll see that it's very limited, right? You can add about 1% rule per salesperson. There's not a lot of flexibility there, and it's not robust when it comes to tracking this functionality, right? Like I said, the commissions calculations aren't flexible. They're not really easy to use, and they're not intuitive. And the external reporting that you typically require needs to be done outside of Business Central in third-party reporting tools, which, as we go into the solutions that we're going to provide today, all of this is going to be handled directly within the user interface. So three of the main things, there's about 7 or 8 that we'll get into today, but the meat of it is this commissions matrix, right? It's the engine of the app. It's going to allow you to define all the different commissions criteria that's going to be applied to the headers, come down to the lines. It's going to include things like your salespeople, your posting groups, dimensions if you so choose, item categories, territories, a whole bunch of things, right? A lot of different available rules you can create with this matrix. And then that'll kind of go down into the journals, right? So for each sales document that you're creating, it'll create pending commissions that can be calculated, posted to journals automatically when the sales documents are posted, which will turn into commissions ledgers, right? So a record of all posted commissions that you can pay off of either employees or vendors. We'll get into all the options today, but think of that as the flow, right? We're going to set up the matrix. We're going to look at the journals. We're going to look at the ledgers, and it's all going to be directly in the BC user interface for you to go through there. So without further ado, we are going to jump right into Business Central. Preston, if you can just give me a thumbs up or let me know that you can see Business Central now on my screen, we'll go ahead and jump right into the setup and the commissions menu.
Yep, we are good to go.
Awesome. So we're going to just type in the search commission, and there's going to be 2 options. You can jump directly into the setup, which we'll go to first, or you can come up to the commissions management administration page here. I like to think of this kind of as the hub or the menu where you can see everything, like we talked about, the setups, the journals, the reporting, right? Everything that we're going to be talking about today can be found right here. So we'll start with the setup. And I'm just going to click the edit in case we need to change anything. The first thing, if you've downloaded this off of AppSource, great. You get that 30-day free trial. Make sure you generate that demo key. This will allow your key expiration date to go out 30 days. And then the license level will say commissions management. If you end up subscribing, you can purchase an unlimited extension license, which gets you access to our entire library. And again, depending on what you have, it'll just indicate that there. So click generate demo if you've just downloaded it and you're following along. After you purchase, we'll give you a key, and you can enter that into the activation key window right here. So first and foremost, activate the app, right? This is going to turn all the options we're exploring on today, all the different fields on the lines and the headers and things like that, that you'll need to be successful with our commissions management app. Require commissions approval. I've got that turned off for today, but if you turn this on, essentially what it will do is, let's say Preston is selling a bunch of stuff, right, to his clients, and I need to approve it. If I have this turned on, all of Preston's entries will post as the sales orders post, as we'll see today, but it will require that I approve them before they can actually be paid out. Again, remember, you can pay employees, you can pay vendors. We'll show you how to set both of those up, but if you need an approval, turn this on. Show salesperson that line. This is a great one and adds a lot of flexibility, right? It'll default from what the header is, but let's say you need to split commissions up and I get commissions on one line, Preston gets commissions on the other line. We're creating one sales order where multiple salespeople were involved and there's not like a clean 50-50 split, which we'll also show how to do in a second. Turn this on and you'll be able to edit the salesperson at a line level. We'll show that in the demo today. These next 2 include invoice discount and include line discount. I've got those both turned off today. So let's say you've got a sales order for $100. With these off, even if there was a discount of 20%, I would still be commissioned on that full $100. If you turn these on, it's then going to make the commissionable base, let's say you had 20%, it's going to bring that commissionable base down to 80%. So if the commission was 10%, you'd only get $8 rather than $10 if you have these turned off. So again, depending on if you want to include or exclude those discounts in your commissions calculations, feel free to toggle those on or off. Depending on what you want the date basis to be, we have posting date or document date. So if you're paying someone quarterly commissions, let's say, do you want those commissions to be grouped or recognized as the posting date that they're being posted or the document date? We typically see posting date being the most popular there. So we're going to leave that defaulted. And prepayment account number. A lot of times people don't want to include commissions on just prepayment invoices. So if you put a prepayment account in here, it will exclude those from all commissions calculations. Now, the next part is very important for accounting purposes. So for all the accountants on the phone, activate GL posting. If you want to create the accruals as you're posting the sales invoices or the sales orders, turn this on. You'll need a batch that they're going to kind of essentially be posted through. So I'm just going to use the default batch today. And then debit and credit account. So here we've got our accrued salaries, wages, and bonus. Again, just where you want to accrue those credits as sales documents are being posted. And then, of course, debit account. What account do you want that to be expensed to? So that's just a quick crash course, 2 to 3 minutes on the commissions management setup. And the only other thing to call out here, if you're already on Business Central, you're already posting sales invoices, and you want to retroactively apply these rules, you can click recalculate commissions. Only thing I will note is this is going to apply it to every posted document you have and unposted document that you have in the system, right? So it's going to kind of back flush everything. A lot of times what people do is copy production down to a sandbox, recalculate the commissions rules, and from there they can kind of check the various rules they've created to make sure it matches whatever commissions structure they've got today. Did I miss anything, Preston, before we jump into the user setup? Just looking at my notes, I think we are covered. It looks like we might have a few questions already. Looks like you're already answering those though, so that's great.
Yep, we should be good in the chat, and I think you covered everything on the setup page.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yep, no further questions. All right. Next, we'll go into, again, we're just going to run through the setups real quick, and then we'll get into the meat of it. Preston will go through the commissions matrix and actually how to post these, but I want to make sure that you're set up and able to actually use the app. So user setup, anybody who needs to use commissions or calculate commissions, add them in this list. I've got myself and Joe in here today. And permissions-wise, there's 4 permissions. None, again, just like it says, you won't have any permissions to commissions. My commissions, you'll be able to see your own commissions. All commissions, you'll be able to see everybody's commissions. And then admin, you'll kind of like all commissions, but you'll also have the ability to override or edit commissions after they've been posted. So we'll go into that today. Let's say you have all your rules, right? But there's always exceptions. We do have the ability within commissions management to make those exceptions if you have the correct permissions, right? So with the correct permissions, you'll be able to override some of those after they've been posted. Again, we've got some other toggles here. So you see override here again. This is going to be at an unposted level. So I'm able to, in this case, Joe is not. Joe and I can both view the commissions dashboard that will show you, and we can both approve commissions if we had approvals turned on. So with that, the next 2 things we'll go into before actually starting to create some rules are sales teams and our sales groups. So the main difference between sales teams, which we'll jump into, think of a sales team.
Just before you jump into that, we do have a couple questions in the chat. I'm not sure if you wanted to handle them. So the first one from Shelly is, are taxes excluded from the commission calculation?
I would have to check on that. I honestly do not know the answer, but Shelly, I'll get back to you on if taxes are included. And then I see another question about, can this be used on paid invoices? I see your answer there for the recalc. So if you've already done them, okay, taxes are excluded for Shelly. So we've got a few other folks from our team on the call, so they're confirming that the taxes will be excluded. So again, answers that. Credit memos are taken into account if you so choose that they be taken into account. We'll show that on the commissions matrix here in a second. Bill, if your question is more so, can it be triggered once the invoice has been paid? The answer to that is also yes. So whatever way you're asking that question, both the answers are yes there. Yeah, we want to pay commissions on invoices after the invoice has been paid, not when posted. Can we do this? Yes. We'll get into the commissions matrix. So I'm going to hold those questions off for now, just because all those questions will be answered once we get to the commissions matrix. But a great segue into what we're going to be doing next. So give me 60 seconds, then we'll get into that. Sales teams, think of these as splitting commissions, right? So let's say Preston and I are working on a deal together. As you know, you can typically just have one salesperson at the header level of a sales order or sales invoice in Business Central. What this is going to allow us to do, maybe Preston and I go into a summit last week. We have meetings or with a client, and we're going to split that commission 50-50. So maybe the commission is 40%, right? Just total on whatever we're selling. Preston's going to get 20% of that now, and I'm going to get 20% of that. So we can use that sales team in order to split those commissions. You can have as many people as you want in this list. Again, you can have them be employees or vendors or a mix on invoicing or on payment receipt, to answer Bill's question down there. And then again, as long as this adds up to 100, how are you splitting that out on that order or that invoice? The difference with the sales groups, think of this as multiple people who share the same commissions rules. So let's say we have 1,000 salespeople, right? And we have 10 different groups, right? In this case, each of those groups gets a different percentage. Now, as you're adding new salespeople, you don't need to add commissions rules for them. You assign them to the group, and they'll automatically inherit the rules that have been applied to them. So we've actually had a few clients that we've worked with so far that have had tons of commissions rules, and we've been able to simplify them down just into a handful of rules. So we had one that had again, close to 1,000 rules. And I think we simplified it down to 15 or 20, just because most of them were repetitive. And it made it really hard to manage as people were onboarded and offboarded, because those rules constantly had to be updated. Whereas now when we onboard a new employee or a new vendor that's selling for us, all we have to do is add them to this sales group that already exists, and it will automatically apply those rules. So I've got one here called product rev share. We'll get into that for the commissions matrix. And with that, Preston, I think we're good to jump into your piece. Just 2 housekeeping items. The employees and the salespeople are just out of box records right here, but we do have some additional fields down towards the bottom. This is one question I get a lot on the employee card. Make sure that they're turned on for commissionable in order for them to actually be eligible to receive those commissions. If they're not going to show up in some of those drop downs. And then on the salesperson or salespeople here, again, if I go to my salesperson, there's some additional fields here. Like if they're in a sales group, like we just talked about, assign them to a sales group. And then you can define this on the matrix, or if you're using a group, you'd want to define this here. Pay to, are they an employee or a vendor? And then what's their pay to number? Again, if you have employee, it's going to filter down to your employees. If you have vendor, it's going to filter down to your vendors. This will, as we get into it, after the rules have been applied on sales orders and sales invoices, actually create the necessary ledger entries to pay these people. So employees, a lot of times, will be paid through payroll. We'll show you how those accruals work. Vendors, it's actually going to create a purchase invoice that you can post in the system. You can pay it directly out of the system with all out-of-box features. If you do the exporting of Nacho files, we also use a tool called XC to actually pay vendors directly out of Business Central. So a lot of different tools you can use, but all that's just going to follow out-of-box logic and functionality. So with that, we're at a great time here. I'm going to check the questions real quick. And Preston, I'll hand it over to you to actually walk through the matrix itself, which I think is probably what everybody's most excited to see today.
Absolutely. Cool. Thank you, Ben. So this is the commissions matrix. These are the 5 rules we have set up. And we're going to go ahead and drill into the first one, Ben 80. So we can just talk through some of the fields, and then we'll jump back out there to show you the other rules we have set up. So just starting here at the top, the description, Ben 80. This description is pretty crucial for all the rules, because it's going to post to all GL activity, so you can actually see where the calculation came from, right? So it's very useful when doing drill downs and reconciliations. So you're going to want to make this description unique. So for this case, right, this is Ben 80, which means he's getting 80% of service revenue, right, as like commissions. So if we scroll down to this business fast tab, you can see there's a couple of toggles here. There's include on the order and include on the return order. So we turn both those on because we want the commissions to be calculated on those documents. There's a couple other toggles back on the commission matrix, which I'll touch on later, that we can show you. The next thing is all these filters, right? So for this one, we only have Ben Cole in the salesperson filter, and that's because we only want to pay him commission when he's the salesperson. right? The rest are blank. And when they're blank, that means it includes everything in the list. So we're not going to filter this rule out for a single filter besides Ben Cole as the salesperson on the business fast tab, right? Now going down to the product fast tab, there's a couple more things here as well. You can filter down to a specific item if you wanted. You could filter down to a specific item category, but in this case, we're going to filter down to the Gen Prod posting group filter of services. So we're going to give him commission on all service products. And so that is what those filters are meant to do. Again, if they're blank, just to note, it will include all of it, all the values that are in the list. Now scrolling down to the dimensions, we left them all blank just for simplicity purposes, but you can obviously select any of like a single dimension here. You can do multiple dimensions. You can essentially do it just like the normal Business Central kind of keyboard shortcuts, right? Where you can do pipes, you can do dot dots, you can do all those things with dimensions if you wanted to do multiple. Scrolling down to the Calcs tab. So the first couple things to note here, the start date and end date. So if you want it to start on a certain date and end on a certain date, you can do that. Next thing is this minimum amount and maximum amount, right? So the minimum amount, if you wanted to do tiered type of commissions, where if the document's in between this amount, pay them this much. If it's like minimum, let's say 100,000, you could do minimum 100,000 and then do a maximum there, and that would make these tiered commission calculations actually kick in. Next thing to note is that commission period basis. So if you click that drop down, the default is going to be the document. So it's going to be calculated on the specific document, the amount from that document. You can also accrue it on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis. The two other fields here in the top left is the rule group number. So that allows you to do multiple rules and group them together based on the commission period basis. So it's mainly used for, let's say, quarterly and yearly calculations. So if we had the commission period basis as quarterly or yearly, then you could essentially group them together there. Then the next is that recurring expired date formula. That is only applies if you're using recurring billing calculations. So for this purpose and for simplicity, we're just going to leave it blank, leave a lot of these kind of as their defaults. Okay, and then the next one, scrolling down to the Pay To tab. So the percent commission, since we're giving him 80%, we're going to type in 80 there. And that's kind of nice to have it as the description as well, because when we actually drill into it on the sales order, like I'll show you, you'll see that the specific rule in the description has been hit. Next thing to note here is that commission amount basis. So the default's going to be revenue, which is the total revenue from the document. There's adjusted revenue, profit, adjusted profit, and custom. Custom, this one is essentially if you want to add custom code to do a specific type of amount calculation, we can definitely click custom and then add some type of customization for your company. But the main one would be revenue. If you do click on adjusted revenue, one thing to note here is the adjusted revenue multiplier, right? So if there's like a 10% transaction fee off the top, you're going to want to put 90% in here or just 90. And then what it's going to do is it's going to calculate the commission based on 90% of the revenue instead of the full revenue of that document. The next thing to note here is the toggle, the get paid to from the salesperson. So when you use sales groups on different salespeople, you can turn that on. And so that way it's going to take the pay to from that salesperson card, which is why having the pay to employee number on the salesperson card is important, because if this toggle is turned on, but that pay to on the salesperson card is blank, it's not going to pull anything through. But since we're not using a sales group for this rule, we're going to essentially hard code in Ben's employee number. And so that way, whenever we post the invoice, the commission is going to be paid out to Ben after we actually generate those payment journals. And then last thing down here at the bottom is this accounting fast tab. This is pulling from the setup table that Ben went through. So if you have those default accounts on the setup table, these will always pull in, and you wouldn't essentially need to change these unless you need to on a specific rule basis. So at the end of the commission card, are there any questions? I see a couple people are answering them, so we could be good to keep going.
Yeah, there's a few. I might just answer them aloud just for the sake of the recording, since we have time, and since we will be posting this on YouTube, if anybody wants to send it out to any of the other teammates or colleagues. So before I get into the questions, one other thing, again, we had some questions earlier on the pay to. So here you can say whether they're an employee or a vendor who's getting paid. pay to date. Do you want to pay them on invoicing or on the actual payment receipt of that sales document? So two good things there. And then I'm actually going to come back up to this dimension line section because there's some questions that I think can be answered by that. So one of them was we have multiple product categories identified as dimensions, and they earn different commissions on each category. How is that handled? So I would assume that you have, a product category, maybe like a product code that we have, and you could create multiple different rules, one for each product code, and have different commissions, percentages, whatever it might be, based on that. Maybe different people getting paid, different date formulas, whatever you want. It's fully flexible. We have another question on, can your tool do a dollar per case commission calculation? And the answer to that, again, just answering these aloud, is yes. That's typically what our custom function, if we come, where was it? We had the custom button here. That's what custom would be for. So we may need to, add some custom calculations in there. We can absolutely do so there. Let's see what other questions we have. There's a ton of questions. Can you change the salesperson after the fact? The answer to that is yes. Can you exclude things? Yes, you can. Any GL resource that you want, each rule could be different. So we can do that, absolutely. Love to see the engagement here. Tons of great questions. And I think kind of as we're going through all of these, the big rule of thumb is just the simplicity that we give you in order to create the rules, but also the ability to basically account for any scenario, right? So there can be an unlimited number of rules, and I'm sure, Preston, you'll get into this in a second, but you'll notice I only have 5 here. This list could be endless, truly, based on all the different criterias that you have, different GL accounts, different customers, different product posting groups, right? So, maybe I get certain commissions on service versus other commissions based on product. Maybe these salespeople get 50%, but these get 60%. Maybe, you have different rule groups. You have all your different dimensions. I really like the tiered example, right? Maybe you have from $0 to $500,000, the salesperson gets 10%, but over 500,000, they get 15% as an accelerator, right? All these things we can build in. So as simple or as complex as you have it, we can absolutely jump into that. So Preston, I'll pass it back to you to keep going, but just to kind of go off all those questions, I think, seeing is believing, and definitely download those trials and we'll help you get those commissions rules set up. A lot of times, if you send us your current commissions matrix, we can pop it into our tool and you can start testing it, making sure that all the calculations are applied as you see fit. So Preston, back to you. But great questions and love the engagement that we've got here. We've got almost 50 people joining, which is awesome.
One last question that I saw too from Chris is, can you pay a different commission per product on the same invoice? The answer is yes, because we have the salesperson on the line, which then can essentially trigger a different rule. We can kind of go through that on the sales order, but yeah, you can have a different commission rule be on each product line. Okay, so looking at this commission matrix, so once you essentially create one rule, you can add all the rules here pretty quickly. So if you click the edit list at the top end, we can kind of show them in the edit view. It works like all the other tables in Business Central, right? So you can just add a new line and kind of select the different filters you want. The two Boolean fields here that I wanted to touch on would be the return order and the credit memo. So I know there was a question earlier, are these included on credit memos? This is that toggle that you would want to select on if you wanted it to be included. So the first 3 rules were all set up the same besides the salesperson, right? So you can see Ben, Preston, and Matt, and then the percentage commission, right? So Preston 60, I would get 60%. If you scroll to the right, you'll see that that percent is at 60, and same with Matt, it's at 70. Matt is actually a vendor. So just like we were talking about, right? You can set up the pay to type as a vendor and select their vendor number here. So you can kind of segregate out those rules based on whether it's a vendor or an employee. And then the pay to date. So if you click the drop down, there is that on payment receipt, which Ben touched on, but that's where you would actually select the rule to be triggered on payment receipt. Okay, so going back to the left, this 4th rule, the BC Toolbox 5 revenue share. So what this is meaning is we're going to give 5% commission on the BC Toolbox. And the salespeople we're going to be using are Ben and Joe. So just like I said, you can use the pipe to add 2 different salespeople into this filter, just like all the other filters in Business Central. And one thing to note here is the BC Toolbox is a GenProd posting group of product. So that's kind of when this rule will get kicked in. Whenever it is a service GenProd posting group, it won't get kicked in, but when it's product, it will. And then the last one for the product sales group, 30%. So for this one, we created a sales group like Ben showed earlier. We added a couple employees to that. And so what this is saying is whenever there's a GenProd posting group of product and the salesperson is inside the sales group of product rev share, it is going to essentially get that 30% commission. Yep.
Yeah. And this is where this is very important that if you're using a group, you have to get pay to, because otherwise, there could be 100 people in that group. So we absolutely have to get that pay to from the salesperson, because that's who's driving who we pay. Otherwise, if it's not, typically that's just for a singular payment for a singular salesperson. If you've got a group, make sure that you get that pay to from the salesperson, so we're paying the right person. But yeah, besides that, I think we're good to go.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. And so then if we want to go back out and we'll actually search for sales orders.
Okay, so at this point, all the setups are done basically at this point. So we'll jump into an order.
Yep. Go ahead and create one. Let's go ahead and click new, and let's create one for snow and ice removers. And you're the default salesperson. So that's the biggest identifier here, is you're going to want to make sure that that's filled out with the salesperson, whoever's going to be getting the commission. Okay, we're going to sell 2 items here. So we're going to do the BC Toolbox, which, like I said, is a GenProd posting group of product. And we're going to do the professional service, which is GenProd posting group of service. Okay. Once you add these 2 line items and the salesperson code is filled out, and you enter in a quantity and a unit price, it's going to automatically calculate these commissions for you. So once you activate the commissions module, right, you can have this field exposed to you. So let's go ahead and drill into it. Cool. So we can see here there's 2 rules that are being triggered by this order and by this product line. So the first one is the BC Toolbox 5 revenue share, 5% being paid out to Ben. And the second one is the product sales group 30%, which is 30% also being paid out to Ben. And this is just because of the setup we have in the commissions matrix. These are the 2 that are being triggered, right? So the GenProd posting group of service, the GenProd posting group of product is triggering those 2 rules that were the 4th and 5th rules we had in there. Okay, one thing to note here is the override function at the top. So if you click the override function, this will essentially allow you to change like the amounts and the pay tos if you wanted to, right? Let's say you notice something was incorrect, you could come in here and change it, and then obviously go back to the commissions rule and change that as well. But that's just something to note here. And lastly is that description. So where it says BC Toolbox 5 revenue share and product sales group, that's why the description is so important, because if it was just a generic description, right, if you just had it be called commissions, there'd be 2 rules that would be called commissions and you wouldn't know which one's getting triggered.
And if it is overridden, if I was to override this, it would flag it as overridden and overridden by. So kind of like a change log or an audit trail of who changed it. Obviously, if I'm the salesperson, I have the edits to override, and I change this to 10,000, right? That's a red flag. So you want to be able to track who's changing what. And of course, you have to have the permissions to change it, like we showed earlier when I was doing my setup demo. If you don't have access to change it, you're not going to be able to override this. So.
Yep. Cool. If you go back, so you can see that the salesperson code for Ben, the pending commission amount is 800. If we change Ben to Matt and we tap out, you'll see that commission amount changes from 800 directly to 700. And if we drill down, it pulls up the new rule that is Matt 70, right? And it has that pay to type, pay to number, pretty much all the information you need when you drill down. So just like Joe was saying in the chat, whenever you switch something that affects the commission calculation, it will automatically recalculate for you.
Yeah, and that was a question from Bill. If you have to add these in every line, and the answer is no, right? It's all happening based on the criteria. So if the customer's this, or the salesperson's that, or the item's this, whatever's in your matrix, if those are triggered, it's automatically going to calculate all these rules. And if you find that you need something else, you can override it or add another commissions in or something. But the goal here is to get 99% of things automatically calculated, so that you're just posting documents as you normally would, and commissions are just like running water in the background, right? It's just happening automatically, and your people are getting paid.
Yep. Cool. So we'll go back, and before we actually post this sales order, let's go ahead and search for that commission menu again. So commission management. And let's go ahead and click into pending commissions. So this is going to be all the open commissions for all the orders. You can see the ones at the top now for sales order 1180. You can see the 3 commission rules and the amounts are all right here. So these will remain open and in this table until you actually post that sales order and invoice it out, right? So you can see there's a couple below here that are on quotes and stuff. We don't need to worry about those in this one, but just so you guys know, you can always come into this table and check out all the pending commissions. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the sales order and let's go ahead and post this. So to go ahead and click no, or I guess yes if you wanted to check out the invoice.
Yeah, and yeah, I just clicked yes there. But again, same information that you've got over there, and the commissions amounts again if you wanted to drill into the document, so you have all the audit trails of that. Yep.
Perfect. So let's go back into pending commissions. I just want to show you that that sales order was taken off of here, right? So it's no longer on this table. And then if you go back, well, let's go ahead and check out the commission ledger. So these are all the posted ones now, right? So we have a lot in here. But if you filter by entry number, you can see the most recent. So you can see the 3 rules and the 3 amounts that were brought in that were just posted. One thing to note here is all the buttons at the top. So if we turned on the approve ledger on the setup, right? If we turned on the approve commissions, this is where that user would come in and actually approve them. So just like how it works with different approvals in Business Central, right on this table, you could go ahead and approve them before they get paid out. The 2 other buttons, the first one, add miscellaneous ledger. So let's say a commission was missed and you wanted to add one without actually, having to create a new document, you could go ahead and do that here. And then same for the add commission credit. Let's say, there was a little extra commission overpaid, or you wanted to add a miscellaneous like commission credit just to bring it back. You could do that as well. Let's go ahead and click that commission history report. So this at the top. Yep. Cool. So this is going to show you all the commissions that are open here. So you can see like for Preston, for myself, right? I have those 3 amounts and then so on and so forth. So as you start using this tool and you start using these commission reports, we can definitely, walk through this with you more in depth. But you can see that these are all broken out into different pages. Okay. If you go ahead and, oh, actually it's right there. So see that remaining balance column? So this is the remaining balance that is going to be paid out. If this is, so right now it's 703,500, right? That means that it hasn't been paid out yet. What we're going to do is we'll generate the payments, and then I'll show you afterwards when we come back in here, that remaining amount will be 0.
Yeah. Quick question from Shelly. Is there a report that shows the originating document number? So if your use case here is that the unposted and posted document numbers are different, we actually have a tool that will keep those in sync. But if you're just looking for it on the payment report, we have that on the payment report as well, just to link to the document number that all those commissions came from. So depending on which direction you're going with that question, because I've seen the first part of it a lot where, Business Central likes to change the unposted to posted document number. We've got another tool called advanced document numbering for that, if that's something that you're interested in. Well, so like to talk about how all of our tools work together, since it's kind of a suite of products at times as well. So happy to chat on that further. But if you just need the document number that the commission rule came from, we've got that in all of our tables and reports as well.
Perfect. And one thing to know here too is the analysis view. So if you click that, we can definitely bring it to the right of the magnifying glass. Just like any table in BC, you can also use this, pull in different fields to do different types of reporting and analysis here. Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Ben. And then so if we go back one more and let's go to the commission payment journal. So under the journals, we'll go in here, right? So from here, we're going to just select generate payment journals at the top. And we'll just do today's date. Keyboard shortcut T and tab will get today's date, right? So now you can see that there's 3 of these that are needing to be paid out, the 3 that we just posted. So from here, you can see it's all the information. Nothing. The one thing to note is that commission report at the top. Yep, commission payment report. We can go ahead and preview this. So one thing to note here is Ben. So there's one for Ben, and if you scroll down, you'll see the one for Matt, right? So Matt's the vendor, so it breaks that out on the commission payment here. And then up at the top, Ben will have both of his commissions on his own report as well. So this will always be broken out based on the employee vendor number. So it's nice to just have those split up.
You can also see, Shelly, going back to one of Shelly's questions, you can see the document number it came from, as well as the customer who was on that document, and even the description from the commissions rule that's being triggered, as well as the total amount and the percentage. So everything you need from an audit purpose to make sure that it's correct is right there as well.
Cool. So let's come out of here. Let's go ahead and post this journal at the top.
Sweet. And just to note, I'm an employee and Matt's a vendor. Well, in real life, Matt's an employee too, but in this case, Matt's a vendor, and it's going to create employee entries for me and a unposted purchase invoice for Matt. So we'll see how that works here in a second.
Yep. Beautiful. So that looks good. So once those are posted with no errors, let's go back and let's take a look at that commission ledger. And like I just said, want to just make sure that that remaining balance for those entries are zero, because that's kind of a good way to tell when you come in here, you know, which ones are needing to be paid out. Okay.
And you can see here as well, like this commissions payment paid this commissions invoice, this commissions payment paid these two invoices, and let's see where it is. Here we go.
Right there. Yep. So you can see the remaining balance is now zero. So if you ever come in here and there's a remaining balance, right, you can filter on remaining balance is not zero, and that could filter down to all your open commissions that need to be paid out. But once it is posted and the payment journal is posted, it turns to zero. Okay. Ben, if you want to go back, I know you wanted to check out that vendor invoice format. Yep, the one at the bottom. Perfect. So you can see it's an open invoice here waiting to be posted. And from here, you would just proceed as normal in Business Central, right? You would go ahead and post this invoice.
Yeah.
And pay
and
it
just
as usual.
Remember here as well, for everybody that's in the audience, this is going to hit our commissions payable accrual, and it's going to hit AP, right? Because we've already hit the expense when the sales document was posted based on my setup. So those have been posted. This is basically going to reverse out 20700 and post it to AP, and then you can do your normal AP run to actually pay the vendors. On the employee side, it's just going to stay in the commissions payment liability account, and you'd pay that through payroll. So again, it would just, the payroll would clear that out. So at this point, I can just post this, and then I'm not going to show the rest of this for the sake of time, but just normal, you know, suggest vendor payments, pay it out through a payment journal, ACH it, use XC, whatever you're using to get your vendors paid. You know, go for it, and that's all out of box. So we won't spend a lot of time on that.
Yep. Perfect. So we got through the journals, we got through the setup, a little bit of the reporting. One thing here, actually, yeah, you can go to the employee ledger first, and then we'll touch on the commissions dashboard.
Just showing two things: create the employee ledger entries, and then also if you go to the general ledger entries, you know, we got about 6 or 7 minutes left, so we'll just go through this quickly. Let's sort this. Where's my entry number? You can see now all the like accounts payable, accrued, right? It's moving it in and out here of their accrued account, 700, negative 700, and then putting it on AP. You've also got your, you know, employees payable, your bonus commissions expense being debited, all that good stuff. So all the ledger entries are automatically being created and triggered as well here.
Yep, cool. So the last thing here is the commission dashboard. So once stuff's paid out, everything that's pending, you know, you can filter it by date. This will show you all of that, right? So starting first, let's click pending in the top. Okay, so this will show you all the pending ones. So currently you can see there's no pending because we have paid them all out. Like it said on the commission ledger, right? Those were all zero. So now we go to posted. So this is where we'll default come in when you come to the commissions dashboard. It'll show you all the total commissions, and then also the commissions by date. and the pay to commissions, for each of the employees or vendors. So you can see the little charts down at the bottom, right? Matt obviously got, you can kind of see those little bar charts going vendor versus employee number. Okay, and then scrolling down, the posted sales with commissions. So this will show you all the documents that have been posted with commissions. You can drill into the document number if you wanted. But yeah, this is essentially just that bird's eye view of all the stuff that's been posted with commissions. So anyone who wants to come in here and view all the stuff, it's kind of a one-stop shop. Okay, and then at the top, there's also these date filters. So if we click today, for example, it'll filter down all the stuff that's just been paid out today. You could do week to date, month to date, last 30 days, right? It has all those at the top. So based on what you want to see at a given time, it has all those differences up there. Perfect. That's kind of it on the commission dashboard and all the tabs from the commissions menu. I know we've been answering questions in the chat, but was there anything else on here before we jump back over to the PowerPoint?
There's a ton of questions. I don't think we'll have time to read them all aloud, but I think we covered everything that would be needed through the demo. Kind of went through all the setups, right? So generic user setup, sales team setup, commissions matrix setup. Again, the main power and engine being that commissions matrix, the different journals pending and posting the payments, the ledgers to see the remaining amounts and the open amounts, and then the dashboard. So a fully feature-rich commissions management app that includes hopefully everything that you need. And if it doesn't, we have that custom piece to take a couple hours and get you exactly where you need to be. But for the most part, we've seen this working pretty well out of box as is for a lot of clients. But always happy to take those custom requests if you have them as well. So with that, I can stick around after and just go through all the questions, but just for the sake of keeping it 45 minutes as promised, we will jump back into the next steps, the resources, and our contact information that you can reach out to us if you have any additional questions. But really appreciate all of the questions throughout. Just as a quick show of if everybody's still with us, throw a little react in, see if everybody's still with us. Like I just threw some thumbs up. If you think that commissions management could be right for your organization, maybe for one of your clients, if you're a partner, just trying to get some feedback on if this is resonating with people and if people find this worthwhile, because of course we want to keep investing in the apps that people are using. So good to see some positive reactions there. And Preston, if you could start throwing in some of these links into the chat just so people know where to go. We talked about it already, but 30-day free trial. If you're a partner, throw this in your demo environment, get it out to your clients. If you want to show it off, we can get you more than 30 days if you sign up for our partner program. So absolutely reach out to me on that. End users or folks that are actually using Business Central to run their businesses, get this in your sandbox environment, play around with it, that 30-day free trial. Feel free to shoot us your commissions matrix. We're happy to answer questions and get this in your environment. And again, fully feature rich for 30 days, no limitations. You're going to have the full app. After 30 days, feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to move forward with that, and also ask us about maybe some of our bundles if you're interested in other apps. Activation video is going to be about 90 seconds long. It's going to take you through how to get to that setup page, how to generate that demo in order to get those free 30 days. And then in terms of resources, right, we've talked about commissions, but we've got 34 apps right now and growing, it seems, every day in AppSource. So product page, that's going to be your best friend to see all of the different apps that we have currently on AppSource, as well as AppSource, which will give you, all of our 5-star reviews, what other people have said, more documentation around the apps, more videos around the apps. We'll be uploading this one as well. And of course, that's where you download the free trial, right? So like I said, summary, screenshots, user setup guides. YouTube channel, we're approaching about 100 videos now on our YouTube channel with a great subscriber base. So feel free to join that YouTube channel, subscribe to get immediate access to all of our updates and notifications when we post new videos. All of the Toolbox Tuesdays are uploaded there as well, and we're going to have video walkthroughs and demos of all of the products that we've created. So definitely feel free to check those out. And then finally, the product guide. If you were in San Antonio last week at Summit, we were handing these out. Like I said on my LinkedIn post today, if you're joining us, feel free to message me if you didn't get one of those or you're unable to attend. I'd be happy to mail you a product guide. We've also got these handy dandy keyboard shortcut mouse pads. Happy to send those as well as a thank you for anybody who attended today. But that's going to give you a fit gap analysis of every app that we have. It's going to give you the estimates on how long you can anticipate installing, configuring, all that kind of stuff is going to take. All of that we're very transparent with, as well as pricing, as you can probably see on our website. So with that, just really appreciate everybody who was able to join today. Preston, thanks for being my partner in crime on this one. And a lot of the folks that are looking to implement commissions will be working with Preston directly. So great to everybody getting acquainted today. But yeah, we'll see you again in 2 weeks on our next Toolbox Tuesday. But thanks for sticking around for commissions management, and we look forward to working with everybody here shortly.